While waiting, I will quickly review the agenda. We will have previous minutes, students and school presentations, parent groups, open to the public, 3 minutes per speaker for no longer than 60 minutes. We'll have our superintendent's report, our correspondence and board comments, including committee reports, personnel agenda, consent agenda. We will be having a second. We have an additional resolution, which I'll talk about in a moment. We will have a second executive session, and then we will adjourn the meeting. We have added a resolution, a copy of which can be found on the tables out front. To give you an idea, the resolution, in 2012, the board revised a policy 6211. It's become evident to us that that policy is not followed as it was intended. This resolution establishes a plan going forward for the implementation of policy 6211. May I have a motion for previous minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes of the previous regular meeting held on Tuesday, April 22nd, 2014.
Second. Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. May I have a motion for the second minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes of the previous special meeting held on Wednesday, April 30th, 2014.
Second. Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Do we have any students or school presentations tonight? Any parent groups? Yep.
Candy Gadsden. Just like to let everyone know that the parent workshop that was held on April 24th, to me, turned out to be a success. Would like to thank Glenn Morris for his work with Castle Learning, and Mr. Romanino seemed to be the man of the hour with athletics in the middle school. He was so busy that he ran into the next workshop that we had, and so we were really pleased. It just goes to show how interested parents are in athletics in the middle school, because they believe that there weren't any available. I'd like to thank Kim Lennon for sharing her time with me also, because she also held the PTO that night, so we were able to coordinate and work together to have an eventful evening. And then Hamali Gandhi came and talked about bullying and cyberbullying, which was another area that the parents were interested in. I'm currently working with Dr. Stevening. He sent me an email, but I have yet to read it today, on doing another presentation here at the high school on NovaNet, just to bring the parents up to speed on his progress with that program. And so I'll be speaking with Mr. Tim to finalize that, but it'll come to you in June. Thank you.
So just under the superintendent's report, at the last...
We didn't do open to the public.
No.
Oh, okay.
At the last meeting, what I had told you, I was going to be coming and reporting out on the hiring process, so I'm going to be doing that during the superintendent's report. I'll be happy to take questions after I'm done with my presentation as well.
We have somebody from open to. Okay. Open to the public. Who would like to speak? I believe, yes?
Make an announcement.
Sure.
Good evening. My name is Barbara McCaskill. I would like to announce that the Southern Duchess in AACP is having its regular meeting this coming Thursday, the 15th, at 7 o'clock p.m. at the Springfield Baptist Church, which is address is 8 Mattie Cooper Square or 8 Church Street. We would like the public to attend, and our speaker for the evening will be the one and only, our superintendent, Dr. Elwood, will speak on the topic of the school budget. We like also, I don't know whether everybody's aware that the J.B. Forrester School annually have a talent show, And I was told by one of the middle school children that that show is supposed to be this coming Friday. And usually a show like that begins in the evening around 6. And I have been going for the last couple of years. They put on a pretty good talent show. We would like to see all of you there. You can check out that information, which I will check it again, because students sometimes get information backwards, but I do know all the kids are rehearsing for that. So if not this Friday, perhaps it's the next Friday. But you should come. You would enjoy how talented the kids are at JV Forester.
Thank you. Yes.
If that's okay, I don't want to go down those stairs because of my leg.
Okay.
Actually, that's the reason. Mr. Romanino by now knows why I'm here. For
If you could
years-
just state your name, please, for the
Rose
minute.
Sokol. For years, I've been trying very hard to change that schedule in the swimming room. I'm a senior, and it is way crazy, that schedule, from 5 to 7 in the morning or 7 to 9 at night. It's just, the water is cold, that I can accept, but during the winter, it's horrible. I'm ready to go to sleep after 7 o'clock at night, and it's too early at 5 o'clock in the morning to 7. Now, I understand there's a security problem in the schools, of course we all know that, but the pool doesn't have that many people in there. If I sign in and they know who I am, I don't know why I can't come in after school hours like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. 9 in the morning, okay, the kids are in school. But these hours are horrible. I'm only supposed to be there when the children are not in the school. And it's horrible. That's why no seniors go in that pool. It looks like it's just closed to the seniors. Very few people use that pool because of those hours.
It's the first that I had heard of it. I can talk to Mr. Romanino. I really don't have the background, so maybe at the next meeting I
Mr.
can.
Romanino was out of his hands. I've asked him.
Okay.
And it just was refused every year. I mean, 10 years ago, whenever the school started, I came from day one. I was that much younger. Now I'm going on 65 years old, and it's a big change. You just don't go in the pool at 7 o'clock at night in October, November, December, January, February, March.
So I'll come back to the board at the next meeting and let you know, but I need a chance to look into the issue.
Yeah, but I've been asking and asking and asking. And all right, we're coming into June. The summer months are fine, but it's horrible. Those hours are horrible.
Well, thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Okay.
Dr. Dorwood will look into it
All right.
and report back to us. Yes, Dennis.
Dennis Pavlock, Legion resident. I do have one more comment on the budget. I didn't bring it up before, and I just remembered it now. Talking to some school districts, I notice, and I am aware that computers are the wave of technology, and we had a seminar on dropouts, and it's almost the same thing as Common Core here in this district. One size fits all. And I was talking to some teachers from Arlington High School and some teachers from Roosevelt High School. And they have wood shop and metal shop in their schools. I know we had them years ago here. I'd like to see that venue and that avenue to come back, because what the students will learn is how to use their hands instead of hitting a button, and how to figure, and how to make, and how to trigger their minds and their memories and their minds and bring their project home like everybody did. Including me, I was one of them, because I took metal shop and wood shop years ago in these schools, and it was the greatest thing. taking something home that you made. So we might want to look into that in the future. I know, like I said, I know every room's or every vacant room now is full of computers. I was talking to the guy that does small engine repair. He said, it's a balance. And right now, it's all right across the board here, straight across is Common Core. And one side doesn't fit. So enough of that comment. I do want to bring up more concerns about Common Core. 60 teachers in the area have launched a statewide petition calling for the elimination of state tests, which they characterized as poorly written, developmentally inappropriate, deliberately confusing, and ambiguous. Proponents might even say that the botched test didn't matter last year, since no longer count towards the grade counted toward promotion. But let me be clear. For the nearly 70% of students who flunked last year's first round of Common Core tests, the grade did count. And I got a problem with it. As I'm going to be on, like I said, last meeting I was here, I'll be on a phone bank this November, on the phones to neighborhood by neighborhood, block by block, community by community, county by county, informing people that don't know about Common Core. But with millions and if not billions of dollars spent on creating tests, then providing remediation with it, it seems clear that our kids deserve better, and I agree. So, one last comment. Yeah, I am okay. And she's even better, or she is. Because I'd like to comment on Margot Solis Ramsey, who was my teacher 31 years ago. So, I'm not going to stand here and eulogize anybody or nobody, but I got to say, she was fair. She was very concerned. We had a lot of fun. But however, when that door shut, it's time to learn. So I do believe that the man above us, whoever that may be, I know who it is, but whoever your God is here, whoever that may be and above you, they needed a good teacher. Let me rephrase that. Not a good teacher, a great teacher. Because those kids up in heaven need someone to direct them. And I can't find any better one that they picked to pick her. Thanks, folks, for your time.
Thank you, Dennis, for that tribute.
Can I just add something to Dennis's? Mrs. Ramsey was also my English teacher when I was a student here at Beacon High School, and everything that you just said about her was exactly true. I mean, she was a great teacher. I know that my specific period class probably drove her insane, but she was always fair and had her sense of humor, and
Absolutely.
she knew how to engage you in that classroom.
Absolutely.
So she will be missed.
Can't agree with more.
Frank Bug, resident. I will have some additional questions, maybe even comment, but I noticed on the agenda for tonight that items D and E and F. Could I ask, what is a IRP RCT review teacher?
They are providing additional support for the students to get ready for the exams or for the end of the school year in this case.
And so that it's a IRP is a
Mr. Tim, help me out. I forget the term. Instructional
Structural
review.
reinforcement program.
Structural reinforcement program.
and is that the same for item E?
No, RCT is the Regents Competency Test. The RCT, letter D, is Regents Competency Test,
Okay.
and E
All right.
is strictly IRP.
Let me ask, and I'll maybe address this issue further after Dr. Gilbert gives his report, but this appears to be 24 people who are being hired or have been
No,
hired.
these are, they're offered to the members of the BTA first, and in fact, I believe every single one on this list is a BTA member.
So all of these are people that are already employed?
Yes.
By?
They're being paid an additional amount of money to provide this service as part of their contract.
Okay.
And these
And is that true for now? And that you point a substitute teacher, I imagine that that's something entirely separate, that it's a position's being filled.
For F,
Okay?
yes.
Okay. I have some additional comments and questions I'll ask them after I hear
Okay.
your report.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I have a few things that I want to say tonight. First, I'd like to thank Anne Marie Corderoni, our Assistant Superintendent for Business, for just your great work on the budget and your presentation. It's always very clear, year after year, always informative, and it really comes in the way of delivering the message to the public and to the staff when you do that during budget process with a lot of heart and soul behind it, and a lot of compassion, because I know you really care about Beacon, and on behalf of our teachers and myself, we really care about you and the work that you do. So you're very valued here, and it was a great presentation. So thank you. Last week, the Beacon Parent Teacher Partnership Committee, we met. We didn't have the turnout that we had expected, but for the folks that were there, we were able to really kind of talk a lot about the budget process, and our superintendent, Dr. Dorwood, and Anne Marie did come and present some information on the budget, so thank you to both of you for that. It was very helpful. We're in constant communication this week. We'll be talking with the heads of the PTOs and the PTA and the PTSO as we disseminate some of the positive information on the budget to the public. There's a lot of athletic events going on this week, and specifically this weekend. Lots of things going on at Beacon always. So we're really networking out with lots more hands involved than we've ever had. This committee has really been a good forum for that. We plan to continue. Over the summer, we plan to meet. Our big project, unfortunately, it's a lot more of a long-term goal than what we first anticipated, but it's certainly still going to be a goal. We'll be working on how to better foster the communication between the parents and the teachers and the community at large. Just want to keep you updated on that. And lastly, I see that the memorandum of agreement is on the agenda to be approved tonight. With that said, I just want to recognize again, you're getting a lot of praise here tonight, Anne Marie. Well deserved. I want to recognize Anne Marie. It's not. People sometimes think that it's once it's over, then you start, and then it's a 2 or 3 month process, and that's really not been the case with our team and with the district's team. It's been always ongoing, so it's been a 3-year process since our last contract, and we've been continually working. More on an informal level and not so official with actual meetings and stuff, but we're always in communication, working on some of the things that need to be addressed, as we try to progress and make it a better relationship and fair for everyone. And so thank you again to Anne Marie and to the board attorney, Mr. Lambert, for all the work that went into that process. Thank you.
Jan Sark, resident. I know you're probably mystified that I missed last board meeting, but I'm still recovering from knee surgery. But in any event, with the upcoming elections for both budget and for the board, I know that we have 3 members that are whose terms are up and that are not running for re-election. I just want to thank you personally for your years of dedication and hard work. Your hearts have always been in the right place. Your thoughts have always been about the children first. And you've come with no agendas, and hopefully you feel that you've accomplished something while you've been here. To the board as a whole, I want to thank you for the hard work that you as board members have put into developing a budget along with the central office staff, for maintaining the program. I know it's been something that's very difficult and something that I've come very often and talked about with the program, and I'm glad to see that you were able to keep it. And I would just talk to the residents of our community and implore them to please vote positively for this upcoming budget. I think is in the best interest of our children, and again, it maintains programs which are essential to our students. And, again, thank you for your time and your efforts.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? Thank you.
So as I said, I'm going to be walking through and show the changes to the hiring process, but before I do that, later on, as part of the board approvals, we are going to be accepting a donation of the painting that you see up by the podium, a painting of the old high school. It's going to be donated by Mrs. Jo Marie Carr, who's here with us this evening. She said she doesn't want to come up front, but maybe you can at least stand, because I think it's a lovely painting. We really do appreciate the donation. I had brought over for Dr. Sieverding. I think we had plans to put it up. Is it still going to be in the office area? Or?
Yes, out of the office area.
Okay, so there was the painting, and then I think a little plaque that had the name of the person that did the painting. So thanks again. Technical problems? There it is. Okay, so we are going to take a few minutes and go through some revisions to the hiring process. What I have that I'm going to display up on the screen are two flow charts. One of them is for, it's basically the process that we'll be following for hiring instructional employees, and then a separate chart for the non-instructional employees. And I'm not going to read verbatim, but basically what we've put in place is some changes relative to the actual interview hiring process, but also to the recruiting and notification process as well. So for the instructional employees, this is the chart that we'll be following, and this chart is going to be going up on the website, on the HR page. By the way, in a moment I'll talk about where we're going to be putting all this information, and we're going to notify people. We currently do not make use of the website for that capacity. There's going to now be a web page on the district website, so if people want to know about open positions, they can go to that location. So this will be associated with that page as well. So in box number 1, if we have the need for a position, or if an administrator or principal feels that they have a position that they need to fill, they would send in a request. Next step would be to the personnel department to create the vacancy posting, so you'll see their job description is applicable. We do have a requirement for the teaching positions, for example, to have an internal 7-day posting, so we'll be running those internally. In addition, we'll be putting it up on the school's website. We do make use of OLAS, DC BOCES, and colleges. In a minute I'll expand on the college piece. And then advertisement in newspapers is appropriate. So let me talk a little bit about what that means. If you've been to the last several meetings, you might have heard us talk about OLAS. OLAS is a system that's used for advertising education positions. One of the things that we've been doing is researching teaching colleges and other colleges where we want to make sure to get the word out about these positions. Since we were contacting the colleges anyways, I had the people of the HR department ask the question whether or not they tell their students to check OLAS. And what I can tell you is, certainly for any of the teaching or administrative program colleges, they do tell their students to check OLAS. And there's other schools within New York State that may not necessarily be education-based that also their students are aware of OLAS. Once you get outside of the state, probably they're not aware of OLAS quite as much. So what I have here is a list of the colleges. So what we know is that most colleges have an internal career center. So if their students are looking for a position, it's a way that the college can make them aware of jobs that are available in the area or in the state or specifically related to their field. So what we are going to do, our intent is when we have a position, so we talked earlier about we had some positions that are going to be open because of retirements. When we get to the point that we're going to fill those positions, whatever job description that goes along with that gets put up on OLAS, that same information is going to be sent electronically to these colleges so that they will then share it with students through their career center posting. So we have teaching colleges, a number of independent and private colleges. Some of them are outside of New York State. And then, of course, our SUNY and CUNY colleges as well. And all of these programs do have a job board, and what we've worked out with them in various ways is it's the same information we'd be putting on OLAS they will share with their students. In the next box number 3, so the interview and hire process, I thought it was necessary to make sure that we tightened up a little bit on the process that we're following here. Once again, I'm not going to read every item in there, but basically, once the applications are received, we're going to be directing or encouraging everybody to go through OLAS so that we have all that information in one central location. The HR office then delivers that information to whoever is conducting the interviews. And you'll notice here that we're saying that there will be committee-based interviews. So what that means is certainly the principal or the administrator in charge of that particular area I'll use the elementary example since some of the positions may be in the elementary area that we're hiring. So it would be the elementary principal. If it was a 5th grade position, as an example, you might want to have 5th grade teachers involved in that process, or the content coordinators as appropriate. So multiple individuals involved in the interview process. We're additionally going to require a sample lesson to be part of that. I think we have the luxury, certainly in the last several years, that there's quite a large number of applicants that we get for these positions, especially in the elementary level, typically in the neighborhood of hundreds. I know, I believe I was told even last year here, you might get 500, 600, 700 applications or more for when we post an elementary position as an example. So the intent would be at some point in that process, people before they progress any further would be required to teach a sample lesson to the committee. We have a candidate report form, and all the documentation that was reviewed by the committee or by the administrator comes back over to the HR office. And the final candidates, we're requiring at least 2, preferably 3, would be interviewed by the assistant superintendent. And then you'll see down here in the next box, final interviews, what would happen is they'd be interviewed by the superintendent. So when you get to the finalists, the potential finalists, they'd be interviewing with me. If you bear with me for 1 second. Bigger? Is that better?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. And then, of course, once it gets to the point, we talked a little bit about this at the last meeting, all the applicants, before they become a recommendation to the board, they go through my desk. So you'll notice here the new hire packet. That's all information that has to be gathered, and then they would be added to the agenda. Oh, I'm sorry, I almost missed the point. So when we were talking over here about advertising as appropriate, one of the things that I wanted to change, because I know there was some concern that sometimes people in the community aren't aware of the positions, I think that the website will help that. But in addition, if you ever read the legal notices in the Beacon Free Press, you know that schools and others sometimes have to put these public notices out. I think that might be a good way to make sure that when we have open positions in the district, we'll do 2 things. People will know that they can either check the school's website or they can keep an eye on the Beacon Free Press. We'll be running anytime there's a position open so that people that are in the community that might be interested in applying would be able to apply or spread the word about the position. So for the non-instructional posting positions, a little bit different, and one of the main differences here is a lot of our non-instructional positions, which would go through Ms. Corderoni's office, would be civil service based. If they're depending on the civil service title, they're either competitive or not competitive. If they're competitive, that means that somebody has to sit for taking a test, and there will be a list. So when we know we have a need to fill a position, we have to request the list from civil service, and then we have to hire off of that list. If they are non-competitive, there are no lists, then we would go through an advertising notification similar to what I was just talking about a moment ago. So we have vacancy request form similar to the previous sheet that I showed you. So we create a vacancy posting. Notice the difference here that there's a different contractual requirements. We have a 5-day internal posting. We make use of DC BOCES in advertising in papers as necessary. If the position is competitive, we request the list. One of the other differences here is, as I said, if it comes off a list, we have to send out canvas letters, so we have to start with people at the top of the list. Based on the responses that we get, there's interviews scheduled. Those interviews might be handled by the director, so for example, maybe by the food service director or transportation director. Finalists are sent over to Ms. Corderoni's office, and depending on the position, she may do the interview, but she reviews all the application materials prior to it going to the next step. So you'll notice here, In some cases, final interviews happen at the assistant superintendent for business level. All the information is collected, and then it goes on as a board notification on the agenda at a meeting. So those are sort of the highlights. I know that there was some ongoing questions that had happened in the last couple of meetings, but I think what we were able to do here is to cast the net much more widely by getting the information out to the colleges. I think tightening up a little bit on the interview process to make sure that a number of people are seen and then the information comes over for the final round interviews. And then I also think by doing the local notification through the Beacon Free Press or making use of the school's website, we can make sure that the community is aware of the positions. Yes?
Would you clarify for community members and board members, I'm on the new instructional employees and I'm looking at the hire interview process. So
Sure.
You said that in many cases you could receive hundreds of applications for one position. So clearly you're not interviewing hundreds of people. So
Right.
Can you just explain that piece? How do you get from 500 applications down to 6 people to interview? Just briefly, if you would.
I think it depends on a variety of things. So I made reference to OLAS. So when you're applying through OLAS, there's a space to put a resume, a cover letter, letters of reference. I think all of those come into play. GPA, for example, what program did they attend? Do they have all the certifications that we're looking for? You might have somebody, so for example, if you're hiring a special ed position and they also happen to have other certifications that would, you think, help them to be a more widely rounded person, those would be things you'd look at. If you're looking at their writing samples and you see that they're not doing a quality job on their writing, that might be something that bumps them out of the candidate pool. So I think there's, dependent upon the position, there's might be different criteria that you look at. And I use elementary as an example of a large number. I think when you get into more specialized positions, maybe a psychologist position, typically your science positions at the secondary level, they tend to be much more difficult to fill, so you have a much smaller candidate pool.
Any other board members have questions? Yes, Mr. Buck.
Olaf, you said that, I think I heard you say that your preferred way of getting the application for a job vacancy is through Olaf.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get them? Do you go and look, or do people who find the job vacancy on Olaf kind of fill out an application right online and forward it to?
So I'm going to do the plan is to do a couple things there. So for example, when we're running an ad in a paper, they typically charge you by the size of the ad or the number of lines. If you go and check, not all, but quite a few of the education-based postings, they would be doing similar to what I would think we should do, where we'll say elementary teacher position, Beacon City School District, please go to OLAS to apply. So it's very short and sweet. They know what we're trying to fill. On the school's website, there'd be more room, obviously, to expand on it potentially. The Beacon Free Press would be referencing them back to OLAS. If it was an administrative position, I know, for example, when we did I think we had a hiring for the Forrestal principal a year and a half ago. There's other job sites that we might take advantage of. I know that we put it through the National Alliance for Black Educators, which you might see administrative type positions on there. Even there, I think we would still give enough of the description, but direct them to OLAS because there they have the more detailed description in the application process. So the other piece that I think you're getting at is when somebody goes there, it walks you through step by step on the different materials that you can submit. The advantage to the school is when I want to figure out who has applied, you can run queries based on that pool. Getting back to Christine's question, what's the GPA, what's their certification? Because they can really apply in two different ways. They can say, I'm interested in any education position, or when Beacon puts a position up there, they can say, I want to apply for that position.
Okay, that's all good. I guess the question I want to ask is, as you're sending out these announcements to all of the different colleges and various places and stuff, are you suggesting or telling them for applicants to apply through OLOS?
Yes.
Is that your preferred method
Yes.
of receiving?
Yes.
Is having them go on there?
Yes, but to make clear, the difference between the newspaper and these college postings, I might have a couple of paragraphs of information depending upon the position that I'm putting on OLOS.
Yeah.
That same more expanded job description is going to the colleges, but no matter where we're putting the notice, we're referring back to OLOS for them to apply. Any other questions?
I would like to say something in this regard. I see in here a resolution that is going to be voted on tonight, I guess what I really want to say to you all is, having been one of the strongest and probably most consistent critics over the last month or two, that I'm very pleased with the results and would like to congratulate you all on getting this done. I think I need for you to know that to me and to I'm sure many others, that this represents for us a commitment on the Board of Ed to take some progressive steps to address some of the issues that have been raised. And I think it's a first step, and it's a good one. And we need to follow that with some of the other more positive actions that we've discussed before. I would also like to say that this is also equally as progressive and a necessary step that enables all of us now to know what the process is and how what your process is, and more importantly for your staff and everyone else who have a systematic process to follow to ensure that all applications get treated in the same way. Third, I would like to say I looked at the list of agencies and schools and stuff that you intend to send these to, and that's, I think, an excellent list of schools to send it to. I would, however, like to suggest to you, though, that in addition to sending them probably to the career placement office, that you also, in New York State, every college will have either an educational opportunity program, or in a private school like Colgate, Columbia, and so forth, they have what they call a higher education opportunity program. And in those programs, you are likely to find the largest majority of minority students enrolled in the school. Not all, but through them, you will get additional exposure to minority candidates with those positions. I spoke with Ms. Thompson and advised her several weeks ago that the Committee for Diversity was going to be sending out a letter to schools trying to recruit minority resumes. And I sent that letter and shared it with her, which was approved, and I have sent it out now to I think 3, maybe 4 parts of the state university. And to date, I've gotten back 6 resumes from students who are interested. I expect that by the time we get a response from places like Buffalo, Rockport, Plattsburgh, Purchase, Stony Brook, City University, all of them, that we will probably have a considerable number of minority applicants for that, just to share with you in the event that you have any potential openings. So I would like to suggest that you add to your list on every school that you send it to a career person, you add EOP/HEOP and send it to them as well, because they are probably much more in contact with minority students than the career placement offices, except for them it's only a name. In the HEOP and whatever. It has a number of non-minority students as well in the HEOP and so forth. But it is because of the income restrictions and stuff where you will find most of the Hispanic, a lot of Asian and African American students. And that's where I sent mine to, in addition to the career officers, and the response was almost like that and stuff. So I have resumes that I will forward that have come from them for that. But to close, I would just like to say that I very much appreciate the effort you put in it. I think it's very good. I'm pleased with it. I just hope that in all of the additional steps that are necessary to be taken to help us increase our minority staff will be followed through as well as ably as you've done with this. So thank you all. I appreciate it. Very good.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Do we have any correspondence or board comments tonight?
I just want to mention that I went to the Dutchess County School Board Association meeting last Thursday. We were basically looking at the School Board Association meeting has been without a director for this past year. We have an interim who's actually one of our fellow board members from Arlington who's been acting in that capacity on a volunteer basis. It's normally a paid position. And so most of our discussions centered around what are we going to do going forward as far as fulfilling that position, because she doesn't want to do it forever. And so we did discuss that about the going out and looking for somebody to become the director for the Dutchess County School Board Association. I mean, it's not a full-time position. It's I think it was like a stipended type position. So that will be something that will be going out and looking for somebody who has that kind of background to do that. The annual meeting, where it's the organizational meeting where the offices for next year are nominated. It will be up in Poughkeepsie, and it is on June 5th. That's the first Thursday of the month at 6 o'clock. I won't be able to make that because that's really early from coming from work. I won't be able to make it work, but all board members are invited to that meeting. It's at the administration office for Poughkeepsie City School District. They do provide a dinner. I've been there before. It's served by the cafeteria, but it's actually pretty good. So it's not what you consider your standard cafeteria fare. At least not when we went to school.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. I would just like to thank Anne Marie and Dr. Dorwin for all your hard work. Budget season obviously is never easy, and I know that everyone has worked very hard to get us to the numbers we're at today. And your presentation is always incredibly informative, yet easily understood, and I think our public truly appreciates being able to view or listen to the presentation and walk away with a true understanding of where we are in our budget. So I thank you both. May I have a motion for personnel agenda?
Motion to approve the personnel agenda items A through I as attached. Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I have a motion for consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda items 12.2 through 12.10.
Second.
Comments or questions?
I actually just had a comment. I see that we're approving an amendment to the current school year calendar as well as adopting the calendar for next year. So I'm wondering if maybe Dr. Drover could just share with the community who may be watching on TV what the changes to the current calendar. I know parents
Sure.
struggle at the end of the year, so it would be great to hear.
Yeah, I don't have one I can display, but essentially the school year calendar shows that Thursday is the last day of school. On the previous calendar, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it showed up as school being in session. We have a contractual obligation that we need to take care of, so we will be turning the 25th, which is a Wednesday, into a day of no students, K-8. Obviously, there's still Regents exams going on in the high school on that day, on that Wednesday, the 25th.
Okay, so just so I make sure I understand, so instead of Thursday being the last day of school,
Thursday is still the last day of school. There will be teachers here. That's their last day. There's the last day of the school year for the teachers. Students would have been here through Wednesday. Now Wednesday, the 25th, will be no students in session. So
Tuesday will really be the last day
Yes.
of school for students
yes.
for the summer.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll be following a similar model in next year's calendar. So you'll see it's all laid out, so it shows what day the students are here, when they're not here, and when we have days at the end of the day.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, on board docs, we have resolutions 12.01 through 12.11.
I know.
So I'm just trying to determine which one is missing. So I guess we can just reread okay. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve consent agenda items 12.2 through 12.11.
Second?
Comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. May I have a motion for resolution 051214A?
I'll read the motion, but do I just read motion to approve the resolution, or do I need to read the beginning of the resolution?
No, you don't need to read it as listed on the agenda.
Motion to approve resolution 051214A as listed on the agenda.
Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. May I have a motion for executive session?
Motion to adjourn to executive session to review the employment history of a particular individual. The board is not expected to take action after executive